Hello and welcome to the FTC Robotics Programming Tutorial Series. My name is Cayden Codel and I'm a programmer for Team 7617 Elemental Fusion. And today we'll be discussing the while loop. Now before we get started, I need to discuss the major difference between for loops and while loops. Now for loops run a set number of times and a while loop runs until a certain condition is met. And you'd prefer for loops over while loops if you're iterating through a list. You know how long the list is, so you'd want to iterate through a set number of times. But a while loop runs until a condition is met, so this could be until a certain key on the keyboard is pressed, or until maybe the game is paused. I don't know, but the while loop runs until a condition is met, whereas for is a set number of times. So in this video, I'm going to be describing the syntax and usage for the while and do while loops. So let's get started. So let's get out of our main method here and write a new method called addNumbers, just like in the previous video with the for loop. And we're going to return the value of sum and add up every number from 1 to number and put it to the integer sum. So to write this in a while loop, we'll first need to know the framework for that, which is while, parentheses, and then your brackets. And then inside the parentheses goes your Boolean expression. And the while loop runs when the Boolean expression inside is true. So right now we want to have a counter variable that keeps track of where we are, and we'll set that to 1. And then while counter is less than or equal to the number, we will need to add that to the sum. And then we will return it at the end. So if we do system.out.println add numbers 5, just like in the for loop video, we will see that it will print 15. Oh, I see the problem here. The loop kept running because we never incremented counter. Here we go. So that will fix the problem. The one problem with while loops is that, and for loops, are that if the condition is never met, they will keep running over and over. So in this case, the loop just kept running. So we need to make sure we increment the variable that we have. It's automatically done in a for loop, but in a while loop, you need to specify. If you're using a number, that is. If you're just checking condition, then that's done otherwise. So if we run it again, we will see it will print 15. So that's the while loop. So in another method we're going to use the do while. So public static int, or public static void Fibonacci. I don't know if I spelled that correctly here. Let me just look that up really quick. Okay, so I looked it up. It's Fibonacci, or with 2 C's. Okay, so public static void Fibonacci int num of terms. Okay. So this will print out the Fibonacci sequence of the number of turns specified here. The Fibonacci sequence starts with 1, 1, and then takes the two last terms, adds them together, and then that's the next term. So prints Fibonacci, or Fibonacci sequence. And then that goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 11, ... So we'll use do while here, so do, and then we'll need a counter variable to keep track of how many terms we're on. Int counter is equal to 1, and then, we'll increment at the end, so we'll make sure that's 0, while, and then counter is less than or equal to num of terms. And the syntax for the do while loop is do, brackets, and then while, Boolean expression, and then a semicolon. And this just means that the code is run at least once, whereas up here, if this is the Boolean expression here isn't true, then this code will never run. But if this expression is never true, then the code inside runs at least once. So we're just getting a feel for the code here. Okay, so I wrote some code here, so let me go through it here. So since we're starting on the third term, the first 2 terms will be given. So we'll start on the third term, and the first 2 terms are 1 and 1. Or maybe it's 0 in some cases, but for now it's 1 and 1. And we're going to print out those first 2 terms, and then we're going to start printing out the third term and so on. So inside here, we'll make a sum, and we'll add 1 and 2, which are the 2 previous terms, and that will be the next term. We'll print out the next term, and then number 1 becomes what the second number is. So in this case, when we print 2, then this becomes number 1, which was number 2, and then the sum becomes number 2. And then counter is incremented so we don't get an infinite loop. And then that will print out all the Fibonacci sequence numbers up to the number of terms. So if we come up here, we can say Fibonacci, and then maybe I want 10 terms. If we run this program, then we will see it will do 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 11, 20, or 19. I don't. Actually, this is 13, my bad. I left that. Oops. Okay. So go, if we can see, it goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and 55. And that is the Fibonacci sequence. So that's using a do-while loop. That's a little more complex math, but that's to print the Fibonacci sequence. And that was a nice introduction to do-while loops and while loops. So I hope you found this video helpful, and happy programming.